everybody. I have got something really special for you tonight. We have a special guest, my friend Steven, that we have been talking for, a couple weeks now. And Steven has the most incredible story that I can definitely relate to. But he puts like a lot of validity into the things that we've been talking about. So we are going to kind of like go here. Hang on one second. There. Okay. We are going to let him kind of tell his story a little bit, like how he got to be where he is. And Steven, why don't you tell, we're going to have to do this probably in like a couple different parts, right?
Yeah, probably.
Because you have such a crazy story. Like I haven't even made it through all of your stories because you have like so many parts of it. But can we start out actually with you talking about the definition of what a targeted individual is?
Okay, yeah. So first of all, I'm Steven. I am 36 years old. I live in Pittsfield, Massachusetts. And I will talk about what a targeted individual is. I just want to make it clear that I'm still learning. Like I just learned these terms, targeted individual and gangstalking, about maybe 4 months ago. And like, it's not like I'm an expert on it. I just have my experience with it. Like I had these 2 years of like traumatic experiences that I had no idea what it even was. But I was just like, so I've been sober for a year, like, you know, all credit to God on that. He's removed my desire to drink and use, and I'm doing very well now. But, and I haven't really had much targeting in the last year of my sobriety, but still, even with nothing really active going on, I still couldn't let go what I've been through in 2021 and 2022. So what I did was like, I just was scouring the internet looking for like people who have been through similar things to what I've been through. So I didn't know what a targeted individual was. I didn't have those words to search or Google. I searched things that were specific to my story, like phones being controlled remotely, you know, harassment from, you know, in my case, it was my landlord, or 2 different landlords, believe it or not. So that's how I started my searching. And eventually I started, when I did stumble across the term targeted individual and gangstalking, then everything just started to make so much more sense. Like, even though, so I don't have all the answers as to how this stuff is done, I at least have a name to call it. And I have people like yourself, Jamie, that I can reach out to and relate with. Because when I saw your channel, it was like I saw videos about gangstalking and meth. Meth was a big part of what I went through. And so, yeah, so back to your question, the definition of a targeted individual. For me, it was like, it seemed like I was being surveilled and singled out with it felt like stalking, it felt like hacking, like my devices, it felt like harassment, it felt like, so it was like a combination of things. At certain points, like, you know, like psychological mind games, like, you know, in my second apartment, and we can probably get to that later, like I noticed one day that like all my underwear was missing, and it was a very small room, you know, and I didn't have any drawers, so I remember I had all my clean underwear in a bag, which I know is kind of weird, but anyway, the room wasn't messy either, it was clean, but one day it was just gone. I didn't have any underwear, to the point where I had to go and buy some new underwear so I could have some clean underwear to wear. And then the next day in my apartment, the original bag of underwear was right where it should have been all along in my apartment. So things like that. I got fired from a job I had very strangely. Like my boss called me in and said, hey, you know, I just want, they called me in on my day off and said, hey, can you come in and just talk for a minute? I was like, sure. Like, am I working today? What's going on? She's like, no, I just want to have a chat with you. So when I get there, she says, yeah, just want to let you know that your drawer was short $200. And like on my son, I have a 6-year-old son who's about to be 7. On my son's life, I didn't take a cent from them. So I was just like shocked. I was like, what do you mean? Like, that's not possible. She's like, yeah, we've been checking the cameras. And I was like, and she's like, yeah, I don't know. So so it's just like it's a combination of things. It's like my phone's being completely hacked. It was fraud being done on my debit card to AT&T. It was a combination of things, but like it boils down to like somebody or a group of people are targeting you and like attacking every aspect of your life to make it more challenging. And it seems like the scope and reach of this thing is just huge, and it's mind-blowing. It's confusing. It's baffling. It makes you like second guess everything. Like what did I do with that underwear? Like, no, so that's my best like definition of at least what it was to be a targeted individual for me.
Yeah, so basically like trying to make you feel crazy. I feel like the whole intent of being a targeted individual is that they really want you to unalive yourself. That is like I feel like the final end goal. And there are so many tactics, and it's so strange, like the kind of people that they use, because they're all different. I've seen it being from, neighborhood watches to military to satanic cults to Freemasons to church people, right? So it's like such a wide variety of like how things happen. And oh my goodness, we have so many comments here.
Yeah, I'll take over for a second. And the frustrating thing is that like nobody is exposing this except for us, like the victims of this. Like nobody who has inside information is revealing any secrets. They're not showing how they're doing this. Like for some reason, it's like the best kept secret. It's like the biggest scandal going on right now. And
seriously,
mind-blowing how secret it still is. Like it's something we got to expose this. Like something's got to give. It's crazy.
Right. It's like people are, scared to talk about it because they're scared of, what's going to happen if they do talk about it. And I can tell you, like, there was a lot of, when I did start bringing up this topic, and I believe that a lot of it like starts from like, because I always take things to like a spiritual perspective, right? I believe there's like two kinds of people on earth, and I believe there's like God's people and then Satan's people. And I believe it's like, it's the army of Satan that is like running it, from the top, right? Using all these different ways. And the targeted people are like God's soldiers, people who have like, who are in like the higher ranking, like army of God, because just like in Satan's army, God's army has like rank and order as well. Right. Here is a comment about the, Gangstalking and V2K by seemingly my friends and family. Yes. Family for sure. Yep. Absolutely. And V2K, so we were kind of talking about this, which is like voice to skull, and it's kind of like it could come through like projections. It can come through like just hearing things like voices, thoughts, like words, right? Like I remember like seeing stuff like seeing like words in clouds. It's almost like a brainwashing thing. Like, I don't know, like what kind of frequency level they kind of like get you at to like for this to happen. It's kind of like mind blowing. I know there's like a lot more like evidence on it, like on the technical side that I don't know, but can you put a little understanding on that?
Well, yeah, so I hadn't ever heard you talk about like visual effects of it too. For me, it was mostly audio. Like I would describe it as like audio tricks in the apartment I was at. But I want to just like give like a little before I get into the V2K, because that's the part that I feel like people have the hardest part, like understanding and like understandably, because it just sounds so weird. But so like how it started for me was like I just like have some bullet points. I'm not going to get into a whole thing here, but like basically I've been in Pittsfield for about 10 years, and I've been struggling to stay sober, and at like 10 years, my pattern was like in and out of halfway houses, like detox, rehab, then halfway house. I do good for a couple months. I start looking better, feeling better. Then I go out to the bars. I relapse again, and then I go to my go-tos, which are like meth and Xanax. And I have done meth plenty of times in the past 10 years, but never have I experienced anything like this until 2021 when I moved in this specific apartment. So how it's like, so when I got this apartment, like I was working for a company, Wayfair, and they basically, it was weird how like the apartment was just dropped in my lap. Like I was in, it was just weird how it happened. I don't know how much weight to give that. Like, I'm not saying Wayfair was involved. Like I don't, probably not, but they ended up like finding me this beautiful loft apartment right in Pittsfield. And like, to put that in perspective, like I had not had my own, like a place I could call my own that I could have my son over. I hadn't had a place like that in years and years. So I was like, when I got there, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to do whatever it takes to keep this place, to keep, so that was my mindset moving in. And when I moved in, I was in a relationship with the girl and things were good. Work was going well. But then we both, after a little while, we both relapsed. She started drinking and I started going back to what my patterns was, which was, and I'll say this just not to incriminate myself, I would allegedly go use the dark web to get my drugs, my meth and Xanax. So I started doing that. She was drinking. We stayed together for a couple more weeks, but then we both basically just amicably split up, and that was fine with me. Now I could use the way I wanted to. But this one night, so I had these two people over. I can't even call them friends, just using buddies, and we were up all night, being loud probably. The next morning, they're like wandering in the hallways, like making a scene to the point where like the neighbors call the cops on us. The cops come and I talk to them for a minute. Like nothing really happened. Like the cops talked to me for a minute, and then my guests and the cops both left. No, nothing. That was it. Like, so I get a call from my landlord. His name's Richard. I'm gonna put his name out there again. So I get a call from him saying like, dude, what's going on? Why were the cops there? And I said, things got a little out of hand. We were just drinking. And he was like, are you sure it was just drinking? Were you doing drugs, Steve? And I lied. I stuck with a lie and said, no, we were just drinking. Later on, though, that specific moment, that conversation on the phone, like he would reference that during a V2K session. He said that was the exact moment that he's decided to come after me. So anyway, from there, like things just got, after that night, things got weird. Like the first thing I noticed was my Wayfair computer just started malfunctioning, man. Like browsers were, like links were disappearing. The browsers were not available. Like Internet Explorer wasn't available. Only Edge was available. So all my work help resource links were gone. It was like I was calling tech support more and more, like it was affecting my work performance. It was just bizarre. It was my computer was tampered with. And I'm good with computers too. Like I'm pretty good with phones and computers. So like for me to call tech support and they had to send me a new computer, but still the issues kept happening. I noticed one of my Android devices went missing. Like I had a few Android devices in my house, all of them logged into my Facebook and everything, because before this, I had never been a paranoid person. I had no reason to think that my own electronics in my own apartment wouldn't be safe. I had no reason to think that. So anyway, one day I noticed one of my Androids is gone. I'm like, that's weird. And so this thing with my Wayfair computer, and now I'm noticing on my Facebook, so I had a few different Androids. On one of the Androids I still had, I'm on my Facebook and I see multiple logins on my Facebook account, one on a Linux terminal. And that was like, I know enough about phones to know that that's like something that hackers use, is Linux. And I don't know about that kind of stuff, but so now like I'm starting to think like, I hadn't had anybody else over the apartment since those two people. So who took my phone? Like, other than my new landlord, who I'm already starting to like butt heads with. Like, he didn't like me. Like, I could tell he was a creep. I didn't like him. So now I'm noticing on my phones like multiple users, like the option multiple users, like with an admin and guest. And I couldn't change that. I could, like, the option to change that was grayed out. On my
you were the admin because someone else was controlling your stuff, right?
Yes, and I'm almost to the V2K part. Like, I'm almost to the buildup of when the V2K started. On my laptop, I noticed like something that says FBI log file. That was the name of the file. And at first, I was like scared by that. Like, oh, the FBI is after me because of my drug use. But then I'm like looking at it like, okay, this thing says it's an FBI log file, a text file right on my laptop. No, this seems like misdirection to me. But the craziest thing that happened was with my Androids. Like, you ever call tech support and you, like, on your computer, and you give them like the access to your computer so that they can move the mouse around, they can click things to try to fix your computer. That was what it was like on my Android. So like, I've never seen anything like it, man. I had control over my device with my fingers, but somebody else, somewhere else, had just as much control. So like, just to get in the settings menu and change options, like, I would have to quickly move my finger from one place to the next. If I wasn't quick enough, the whole settings screen would disappear, or the screen would change. I would get in like battles, like, for that lasted, like, I was just angry, like trying to like fight with whoever was hacking me. It was insane. So shortly after, so all of this was happening, you know, and I wanted, the next thing was like, that I wanted to mention was, no matter how many new phones I bought, like, I would keep formatting my phones, factory data resets, and it would not change anything. It would be the same thing. I went to buy a new phone, a straight talk wireless phone with prepaid card, and like, I just couldn't activate it. Somehow one of the numbers got mixed up, and I couldn't make any calls, but somehow I was listening to someone else's voicemails, like some lady's voicemails. And Jamie, I don't know, I remember you saying something in your story about hearing voicemails. Like,
Yeah.
can you have something to add on that? Like,
Yes. Okay, this was wild. So say like I'm at somebody's house, right? I'm with like Chris. Okay, so I'm at this guy Chris's house. It's just me and Chris at the house. Well, and we're talking, whatever, we're probably high on meth, whatever, having a conversation, right? And I notice I have a voicemail, and I'm like, well, who is this? And it's a I don't know who the number is from, okay? But I'm listening to the voicemail, and it's our conversation. Like, somebody else was there, okay, that was like just holding the phone out, right? But you couldn't see them, right? Like, they weren't there, but they're like, you know what I mean? So it's like, oh my goodness, like, who the heck else is here, right? You know what I mean? I can't tell you how many times that happened over and over and over again with that. And then they would just like call and leave me like random voicemails, and I would be hearing like other people's conversations, like, what in the world? And it was just like to make me go like crazy, I think. You know what I mean? There was one time they had it, and I swear it was like I was listening to my kids, and I was freaking out, like, who is with my children? You know what I mean? It was like, it was so crazy. And oh my goodness, there were so many times. It was like terrorizing. It was literally terrorizing.
This stuff is so baffling and creepy, like such a skin crawling feeling the whole time I was in there. Yeah, so it was around this. So these people like have they know tricks with audio. They're using something that can like, and this is the V2K part. Like, I would. So the last time I talked to Richard like properly on a phone call was like, it was a confrontational conversation, because I had already noticed all this hacking going on, and he said he needed to do a routine check in the apartment, and I was like, okay, you can do your routine check, but you better make sure I'm there, like, when it's happening, because I'm renting this place and I don't want anybody in here when I'm not here. And he was like, oh, why do you have to, nobody else had a problem with this, but you got to make a big deal out of it. So that's how our proper conversations ended. From that point on, we would talk back and forth, but never on a phone call. We'd have full conversations, but he was not in the room. Sometimes it sounded like he was like above me, above the bed. Like it sounded muffled, like it was coming from the roof. And I know this sounds crazy to people who have not been through this. And I know that their reaction is going to be like, oh, you were just on drugs, man. But drugs don't do this to you. You can't like make up conversation, like over a period of months. Like I have my whole story like in 3 30-minute parts with so many details. There's no way I could make this up, Nate.
Yes. Can I just say the thing about the roof? Okay. Whenever I would hear them, like it sounded like they were on the ceiling or something, right? Like it's like where are these voices coming from? And I would generally hear like a male and a female. And I'm like, I know, like it's like it was almost like, is the roof like you can like go through the roof, like it's not solid or something? Like what is it? It's just crazy.
Yeah. So, and like you said earlier, it wasn't just voices. He would throw like noises in my apartment, like the ones that stick out the most. It sounded like police sirens, but not coming from outside. It sounded like it was like in surround sound, like circling, bouncing off the wall. There was this one line and one line only, obviously making fun of me from the Jay-Z song. I got 99 problems, but ain't one. But just that one part, never the part after, never the part before. So that wasn't a car driving by. And it would be over and over again. Like it would be like police sirens for a couple seconds. Then that one Jay-Z line. And then it would be like footsteps and a door opening to the point where, so this was a loft apartment. I had the bed upstairs and then the door and the kitchen and the living room downstairs. So it sounded so real that I would rush downstairs and look around like to see who just got in, and nobody would be there. And I would hear like from presumably Richard, some people say like, dude, it wasn't your landlord, but anybody would be hard pressed to convince me that wasn't him. But anyway, I'd look down, I'd hear the footsteps, I'd rush down to look to see who it was, and I would hear, like just that, I'd hear that laugh over the next few months so many times, like just like having fun with it, like with my confusion and my like inability to figure out what's going on, because I would be spinning my wheels, man. I'd be tearing apart my apartment looking, because the only thing that made sense to me was like, okay, he's got a camera, a speaker, some sort of device around here that is got me on camera and is able to make noises. So where is it? So I'd be tearing the place up, and every time I'd pick up something to look behind, there'd be nothing there, and I would hear a It was crazy, man. So yeah, that's how the V2K was for me. That's how it was, man.
Yeah, that's wild. Yeah, I can relate to the thing about like the surround sound. I heard that like a couple times, like, oh my goodness. One time I was seeing these like, so there was like literally, it was like on the clouds, like you could like see things, like there was like things happening in there, and I'm like, am I like seeing in the heavens or something? Like, what is this, right? Like, is it like the spiritual veil being torn or something? And I can actually see like what's going on, like in the like outer realms of like the earth. And then I could also hear, and like you said, it was like in surround sound, like hearing like it was just like this weird like music and like battlefield music or something. It was wild. There was another time that I heard like my kids screaming. I mean, like in surround sound, like I heard them crying and screaming, and it freaked me out so bad. It was terrifying. I mean, absolutely terrifying. It was like some really like sick social experiment or something.
Yes. And oh my gosh. Yeah, I saw visual tricks as well. One night I was in bed, and it was a whole night like where he just would, and I feel bad for other targeted individuals who are still dealing with V2K and have dealt with it a lot more than I did, because I haven't experienced it in over a year. But I remember some nights he just wouldn't let me sleep. He was just jabbering all night. One night he was singing to me, like in a low, bellowing, even at the time before I knew about him or knew about, and by the way, while this was happening, I didn't have the word V2K, targeted individual, Gangstalking. I didn't know, I've never heard any of that. I just thought what I kept telling people is like, man, I am really hacked. I am so hacked. Like, I don't know how to explain it. And all those words just fell flat. People are like, what do you mean, dude? Like, just buy a new phone. And I'm like, no, that's not it. But I saw visual tricks as well. One night I was laying in bed and I saw a shadow, like a life-size shadow making vulgar gestures, like up and down, just gross stuff. Singing demonically, like about me and about like, just, I feel like he was improvising the lyrics, but I still remember the melody. Like the lyrics were just stuff like, if you resist, I will have to kill you, stuff like that, something like that, yeah. All sorts of crazy stories. I also saw like, and maybe we can get to this in another video, like to explain the whole story, but like I saw a visual, like a hologram displayed on a flashlight I was looking at, and it looked like a FaceTime video, which makes no sense when I say it out loud. I was looking at a flashlight, just a normal flashlight, when all of a sudden, like, I see Richard's face on it going like, and
oh my God, so creepy.
dude, and I remember it clear as day. Like it had a hazy kind of like gasoline like fume to it. It wasn't very high quality. It was like and I don't mean a hologram like 3D in front of my eyes. It was on the surface of the flashlight bulb. I realize how crazy this sounds. I really do. And if you want, I have on my YouTube channel, I have the whole story, like explained the best as I can in 3 30-minute videos. And, maybe we can get to that at a later point, but I just wanted to relate with you. I've seen visual tricks as well. Like when you said something about like seeing like letters in the sky, that reminded me of an episode I had where, there's so many stories, but like I was crouching in front of a door, with my back towards it, and it looked like someone was passing me like little notes underneath on fortune cookie fortunes with messages on them, which doesn't make any sense. And that whole episode, honestly, I don't even know how they could do that with technology. That did strike me as demonic. And my parents, my mom and dad, by the way, I know you guys are watching. They're Christian. I grew up in a Christian house. I still am a Christian. And my mom, that was like, and I really appreciate that I have people in my life who like love me enough to like want to try to understand this and want to listen to like what I've went through. And they both watched all 3 of my videos. And my mom said, that she thinks I was under like demonic attack. And maybe a lot of this felt demonic. That's for sure.
Absolutely. And TJ is asking, what's your channel?
Okay, so it's not bad for a target. Just not bad for a target.
The number 4 or the letter 4?
The word 4. And the thinking behind that was like, in my life, like I'm doing very well. I have a long ways to go. I have a decent job. I'm seeing my son more. I'm doing pretty well. Not bad for a target.
Mm-hmm. It's so crazy because I do believe that it is like demonic. Like I believe that it is demonic, like all the way, because like it's just like there's just no other like. I mean, because who would want somebody to like unalive themselves, right? Except for like the demon, like Satan, you know what I mean? Like that's steal, kill, and destroy, right? And that seems to be like the whole premise for this, for gang stalking and targeted individuals. And it's like they use people like pawns, you know what I'm saying? And like use people and like people, like it's not like the people that you would think, right? Like because some people think like, oh, these are just bored people who are like on meth. Like, no, like these could be very like high ranking people. The people that were, in my story, were a satanic cult, right? And they were, they said that they were Freemasons, but they were also, working with police and judges and you know, all of these things. So it's not just like people who are like, oh, they're just like scummy people who have nothing to do. Like, no, this is not how that works.
Yeah, yeah. It seems like a lot of people on both ends of the spectrum. On the gang stalker side, like there is a huge, a wide selection of different types of people, as well as on the victim side. And just so people know, like this does not just happen to people who are on meth. I have, and I can't wait for my next video. I am, it's going to be called "Why and How I Came to Call Myself a Targeted Individual." And I'm going to literally cherry pick from my story every single crazy thing that happened and show clips of other targeted individuals who are describing the same exact thing. So that when people ask, like, because a common reaction I get is like, dude, why you? Like, what's so special about you? Why would they do all of this just for you? And like, I can't wait to show people, like, it's not just me. It's still like hidden. It's still unexposed. Not many people know about it, but there are so many people who are describing the same exact thing. Like everything we're describing here. I found clips of guys who have seen holograms, have seen faces in holograms. I have another clip of a guy said that sometimes in the right lighting, you can see your gang stalkers where they're at if you're looking at a glass reflective surface, like a flash.
Right.
Like, so that's just one, like, I can't wait to like finish that video. I'm almost done with it. And I really think it'll like show people like, dude, it's not just being on drugs. It's not, it's not just me. It's not because I'm so special. And I knew that when I was going through it. I'm like, I cannot be the only one that this is happening to. I know that like I'm not that special. Like I'm just a dude minding his own business. And that's the thing that's so disgusting about this is like, yeah, I'm not a saint, and yeah, I was using drugs and just like, you know, living in sin for sure. But I wasn't bothering anybody. I wasn't out there robbing anybody. I was literally just trying to like use in peace in both of these apartments. And this whatever this gang stalking targeting thing is, it's like you can be affected even if you're not guilty of anything, even if you're just minding your business. Like this can happen to anybody, and it's disgusting that they can get away with this for now, you know.
Absolutely. And we were talking about finding some scripture that kind of talked about like violent gangs of men who were coming after people, right? I believe mine was Psalm 86, right? And yours was, what was it, 37?
Oh man, I don't remember. I know me and my dad were talking about this the other night. I think this one guy has a video where he described, I think it was Psalm 11, with when David was being pursued by like a massive army. And but there's this one verse, and I don't know where it is, but it always has struck me as the gang stalking verse. It talks about like inventors, new ways of doing evil, like that. If anybody can tell me what verse that is, that one is, that to me, that's like, wow, that is gang stalkers. Like this is some new, devious, super sneaky, deceptive kind of way of doing evil. Like, you know, very creative, very, that's just, it's gross. Yeah.
So somebody said Psalm 110 also, but this one, so in Psalm, hold on, which one are we at? Psalms 86. Yeah. So yeah, this is a prayer from David too. And just talking about, you know, calling out and, oh God, arrogant and insolent men have risen up against me. A band of violent men, a gang of violent men have sought my life, and they have not set you before them. But you, O Lord, are a God who protects and is merciful and gracious, slow to anger and abound in loving kindness and truth. Turn to me and be gracious. Grant your strength, your might, and your power to resist temptation to your servant. Show me a sign of your goodwill so that those who hate me may see it and be ashamed, because you, O Lord, helped and comforted me. And I remember just like reading like Psalm 86 over myself, and just like other Psalms of like protection, you know, like Psalm 91, of course, is like a really good one too. But there's some ones that they literally talk about violent gangs of men coming
Yes.
on people. And I know, I'm sure like women can be part of this as well, but did you have any women? Mine were all guys.
So I had this, and I had no idea at the time, but I had this neighbor downstairs, this girl, and I there's a word for it that I didn't know at the time, but I guess they're called honeypots, like, which is like, just like she was keeping tabs on me for Richard, and that became apparent, you know, like, so it started with like, she moved in like after I was already there, and after this stuff had already started getting weird for me, and like I get a knock on my door. And you know, it's this girl I've never met, the downstairs neighbor. She's got a bottle of wine, and she's like, hey, so I just moved in downstairs, and I was just wondering if you want to hang out. And I was at the time, you know, at the time I was like, I was cocky. I was like, yeah, she must have seen me outside or something. So I was like, yeah, sure, let's hang out. So we started hanging out after that, but quickly her true colors started showing. Like, I don't remember specifics, but I would kind of vent to her about like Richard, and she would kind of agree with me, like, yeah, he's a creep, and then and we'd go back and forth. But then I would catch her, my eyes would get wide. I'm like, wait, I thought you said that you didn't tell him that, and then she'd have to backtrack it. So I caught her like that a few times. And I remember when stuff got really bad. And I didn't even have a working phone to contact my friend Lindsay. I didn't even have like a phone that I could log into Facebook and send a message. Now remember, I didn't even have a phone that was activated, because I tried to activate a Straight Talk wireless phone, and I ended up getting someone else's. It didn't work. I couldn't figure out how to activate it. So I had no way of getting in touch with anybody. I'm so isolated. I'm being harassed. And I remember like my only option was like, and I was strung out on meth. So I wrote on a piece of paper, get in touch with Lindsay, which is my friend. Here's her information on Facebook. And I slid it under Alyssa's door, the girl downstairs. And, you know, she came by and knocked on my door either later that night or the next night. And she was like, hey, you know, played the concerned friend, like, hey, Steve, how's it going? Oh, you don't look too good. You don't look too good. I'm like, and I didn't. I was a mess. She was like, I just wanted to let you know, I did reach out to Lindsay. I sent that message for you, okay? And I was like, oh, thank you so much, thank you. And, you know, a couple days go by, a week goes by, and Lindsay is a good friend. If she got a message, she would have stopped by and checked on me. Months later, after I moved out and after all the dust had settled, I asked Lindsay, I was like, hey, did you ever get a message from a girl named Alyssa asking you to come over and check on me? And she was like, no, definitely never got that message. So yeah, my story was like light on the gang stalking. Like I would have been a hard person to gang stalk. I was working from home. I was only leaving the house for like alcohol and food. So mine was like a lot more like targeting, like the hacking, the hacking, the V2K, and like and there was like really specific harassments with my TV, like my TV, just for a couple more like crazy stories about what happened with my TV. So one night, so I've been having this girl over, Julia, and you know, and sorry if the content, I know that this whole is kind of like, it was a dark time in my life. I was living in sin. So I was having this girl over, and we were, you know, I wanted to hook up with her. And, you know, she came over like 4 or 5 days in private, of course, and whatever, that was that. So anyway, like a few nights later, I'm in my bed watching TV when all of a sudden my TV changes to a song. Like I think it was a YouTube video, but I'm not sure. And it was like a whole rap song written about Julia and like making fun of me. And I remember the lyrics. It was like, Julia, I want to, Julia. And like there's a whole song written. And I remember like one of the lines was like, I hope your son dies. And I'm just sitting there with my jaw dropped, like so many questions. Like, first of all, how is this dude controlling my TV right now? How does he know about Julia or what we were doing in there? And most importantly, like, why? Why would he go through all the trouble of writing, recording, producing, making this whole video and showing it to me while I'm in my apartment by myself. Like, so yeah, that's just another example of like the things that, so yeah, so not many to answer your question, not many gang stalkers that I was aware of. But again, during all of this, I didn't know what a gang stalker was. Like, I didn't know what to look out for. All I knew was like there was a girl downstairs who wanted to hang out, and after a little while, like I noticed she was like sketchy. Her intentions were like, she didn't seem like trustworthy, and so yeah, that I think that was like the only gang stalker I encountered now, or at that point.
Do you think it's interesting, an interesting correlation that in the Bible it talks about like one of the principalities like in the end times that's coming against people is called media. What do they call it? Like media. Did you ever see that in the Bible? And we're talking about TVs because I remember specifically things about TVs, even what you were kind of just talking about in a different situation that is like mind blowing to me because it's kind of funny. And then they also talk about it in the Bible as being like an evil entity. Yeah.
I mean, what TV can do. I mean, what they're doing with Hollywood and just how they're trying to distract people, just like on the things that people already know about that's wrong with TV, like trying to get you distracted on what matters, away from God, focus on these celebrities, like focus on your favorite TV program, focus on the news, which is biased and doesn't tell you the real stories, like this kind of stuff that's going on. They'll never mention this kind of stuff. So yeah, TV is a great tool of the enemy for sure.
Yeah. Yes. And this comment right here, sending subliminal messages. And I actually know somebody who worked for a broadcasting company many years ago who actually told me that is true, that they do put like subliminal messages through the TV and the radio. And he says, and now on the phone. I believe that too. People, I believe, will be controlled by their phones, like in the end times. You know what I mean? And you can, how easy is it, right? Because like I know when I was going through that, my phone, they could see everything that was going on. My phone was their camera. They could literally track me everywhere. They could see everywhere that I was going. You know what I mean? I would pick up my phone and there would be pictures in my phone that I did not take. Like there was one of like this guy who took like a selfie of himself in the mirror in the bathroom. Never seen the guy in my life. Okay. How did this picture get on my phone? You know what I'm saying? Like it was so wild. There were like so many things that it's almost like there was like a whole nother world that you couldn't see. Right. Yeah.
I feel like I feel like this is some, like just as a, like on a spiritual level, I feel that like something's building, like they're like testing this stuff out now, and something wild and horrible is on the horizon, and they're figuring out how much they can get away with. And back to your like subliminal messages thing, like I totally believe that they are doing that. What I've learned from this is that like if people can get away with it, they will do it. That's like the criteria. Is like, okay, can we get away with this evil work? Okay, yes, we can. All right, then let's do it. And it's disgusting, you know.
Let's see. What do we got here? Table and what you're going to watch. Red Scout wants me to read Psalm 110. All right, I'm gonna let me check it out. Let me see what we got for Psalm 110.
There's a guy, while you're looking, there's a guy on YouTube whose channel I love. I think you would too, Jamie. His name is like Transmun Dane, like Transmun Dane, Dane. And he is a believer, and he has a story very similar to yours and mine, at least in the sense that he's a Christian, he's a believer, and all the worst of his gang stalking happened while he was on meth and living in sin. And he has, like, I showed a video to my dad where he takes a whole psalm, and I forget which one it was, but it's on my phone somewhere, which I can't access, which I can't touch or mess with right now, because that's what I'm using to record. But I think you would love his channel as far as like a biblical reaction to all this stuff. He's got he gives all glory to Jesus and all praise to God and delivering him, and I think that's great, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. This is not long, so I'm just going to read it. The Lord Father says to my Lord, the Messiah, his son, sit at my right hand until I make your enemies a footstool for your feet. The Lord will send the scepter of your strength from Zion, saying, rule in the midst of your enemies. Oh my goodness, I love that. Rule in the midst of your enemies. So like, even while we're going through this, right, we need to stand up and like rule and like stand our ground in this. Your people will offer themselves willingly to participate in your battle in the day of your power, in the splendor of holiness from the womb of the dawn. Your young men are to you as the dew. The Lord has sworn an oath, and he will not change his mind. You are a priest forever, according to the order of Melchizedek. The Lord is at your right hand. He will crush kings in the day of his wrath. He will execute judgment in overwhelming punishment among the nations. He will fill them with corpses. He will crush the chief men over a broad country. He will drink from the brook on the wayside. Therefore, he will lift up his head triumphantly. And just talking about how, like, you know, vengeance is mine, thus saith the Lord.
Yeah. And, oh man, I stand firm in that too. And that is the one piece of advice I would have for anybody going through this kind of thing is like, I know it's so tempting to like get angry and like want to reach out to the people who you think or know are involved and like, and just, or maybe if you're, and at certain times want to attack them or something, but you cannot give into that. That is not the reaction you need to have. The best thing you can do is to better your own life. Like get your own affairs in order. Like give glory to God. Ask him for strength, because right now, this stuff is still a secret. You're not going to be able to expose this by yourself. You're not going to be able to take this whole thing on by yourself. You need the help of Jesus. And just know that like God's got it covered. Like he sees all this, and if we hate it this much, you know how much he hates it. And he, you know, the best thing you can do is just live your life and better yourself, so that they can't discredit you. They can't call you crazy. Like get a job, do well at your job, like be active in your community, in your church, and like have a normal life. Like, yeah, you can, and like I'm talking about this stuff right now, but this is not my whole life. Like I at work, I don't talk about this stuff, you know? I mean, if somebody is going to, and with doing all these videos, like I am prepared for people coming up to me and talking about it, you know, and I'll be happy to talk about it. Like I'm not ashamed of my experiences. It's the truth. So because of that, like I have nothing to worry about. The rest, people's reactions, Steve's, you know, whatever. I'm not worried about that. That'll work itself out, and God's got it covered.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like we're trying to prove that we're not crazy. So don't do anything to make us look like we're crazy. Right.
Right. Like in my case, the first thing I had to do was like stop using drugs, especially meth. Like, and honestly, it's been a great motivation for that. Like, because check it out, the last 2 times I relapsed. Like it never used to be like this before 2021, but the last 2 times I relapsed, I went through this kind of harassment at 2 different places. So like, I don't know exactly what to make of that. Like I have a lot of questions still, but it has served as a great motivator for me to be like, okay, drugs are not an option anymore. Like drugs are really weird for you, Steve. So you gotta like stop. Like, and it's for the last year, it's worked. And you know, I'm celebrating I already got my year like on the 17th of sobriety, but I'm celebrating tomorrow night, and things are going really well for me in that regard. So
that's awesome. And what was your program that you used, or were you a 12-step?
Yeah, I'm in AA. Yes.
AA? Awesome. Yeah, I did A. That was like my foundation too. So I love the AA steps. I think they're super helpful. Okay, so your YouTube again is not bad for
a target.
Okay. You guys also, make sure you are going, and I'm going to type it in the chat. And this is Steve's YouTube. Make sure you go and you subscribe to his YouTube and look out for his videos.
Yeah. I got
And
two more planned, but the next one, like I'm like halfway, 3/4 done with it, and I'm like, it's going to be good. I'm putting a lot of work into it, and so yeah, I feel like it's going to be a good compilation of like, hey, everything I'm saying is backed up by at least 1, 2, 3, 4 people. I use a couple of Jamie's clips of things that she said. I'm taken from a big selection of people to be like, hey, this is not just a guy who was on meth, and like I've never had any mental diagnosis. I'm not schizophrenic. I've never I'm so that's not it. That's not what this is, and I want to show that in this next video. And I think I make a pretty darn compelling argument for that. So
yes, absolutely. I mean, that was the first thing that I noticed, because like a lot of people, message me with their stories. And when I saw your, your testimony, I was like, wow, this guy's like, he's got it down. Like you're detailed. You back up what you're saying. You don't just go off on left wing. Like you're like, no, like this is legit what happened. And let me explain to you how and why. Right. So you go into like the whole circle of it, which is so good because it helps like other people who have never been through it, who don't understand, be able to like look at it like, okay, wait, this actually has some validity behind it, right? Because you explain it like the whole way.
Yes, and that didn't happen overnight, man. I had those videos I worked on so hard because I was so sick of telling little bits and pieces to like friends or family, and just by itself, those little bits and pieces just are not. They don't hold weight. I was so sick of telling little parts of it and then not making sense. And I was like, okay, like I hate writing, but I was like, I gotta write it all out. I gotta write it down. I gotta put the time in. I was like, I don't want to do that, but I think that's the only way I know how to like get what I'm trying to say across. Is like it's got to be done that way. So.
Definitely. And I see a book in your future, Steve.
Maybe.
A book in your future. So, well, I think we are about out of time for today. So you guys, thank you so much. Make sure you guys are sharing this out. Make sure you guys subscribe to Not Bad for a Target. That's Steve's YouTube. Make sure you subscribe and check out his videos. And we will be collaborating again. And kind of going into like some different things. Like I said, for me, praying Psalm 86 and Psalm 91 over myself has been like so helpful. Just kind of like asking like the Lord for protection and things like that. So, it says like, if we have the Holy Spirit living in us, like it's like God's spirit talking to God's spirit, right? And he has to respond to his spirit, especially if you are speaking his word, right? Because he can't lie, right? So he has to respond. So making sure that, you guys are like just staying covered up in prayer. And and we will definitely be having a probably part 2, 3, and 4 and some different we're going to be collaborating a lot on this because we have so much to talk about. And so, so thank you guys for watching, and we will let you know when we are going to get together again. You guys have an awesome night, and we will see you again soon.
Bye, guys.